we doing, traders? And welcome to the SPACs attack. Let's get it started. Let's bring in my man Chris Katje. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, what's up, Mitch? How are you?
What's going on, man? Looks like the SPAC world is moving, and we need to get them moving too, right? So one thing I definitely want to take a look at is the watch list for today. But before we get into that, we got a lot of rumors. Today we're going to talk about some SPAC rumors. So Chris will go ahead and knock some down. I'm sure there's going to be a couple new ones out there, and definitely going to be talking about, of course, the main watch for today. I'm sure people are still watching CCIV, waiting on that confirmation. Up there now to on the 12th, got up there to the 40s. So it's going to be interesting, definitely, guys. So Chris, let's go ahead and let's get right into it. Smash the like, guys, if you're new to the show. This is where we talk everything SPACs. So if you're into SPACs, you're in the right spot. Hit the like down below, and let's go ahead and let's get into our headlines here.
All right, guys. So headlines today, starting the market out on this Tuesday after the holiday. So lots to talk about. And we also have a couple deals announced. And then we'll dive into those rumors in the middle part of the show. So for headlines up first, we have RPLA. That, of course, is Replay merging with Finance of America. We just had CEO Patty Cook on the show. They have set their merger vote date for March 25th. So again, this is one to keep an eye on as it's currently trading below net asset value going into that merger vote. So March 25th, RPLA, keep that one on watch. Our top mover on Friday, no surprise, CCIV, Churchill Capital 4 moving again. Shares were up 27% Friday. More optimism for that Lucid Motors rumor. We talk about this one a lot. I do still own shares, and we'll hit on this one again in our rumor segment. But no surprise, this one rocketing on Friday ahead of the long holiday weekend as people anticipating that deal to take place any time. Another big mover on Friday was CMLF. This was the BioSPAC that recently announced their merger target, and it was added to Cathie Wood's ARK ETFs on Thursday. So that one's showing strong support, from getting added to the ARK funds. No surprise again that one was up double digits on that news. Some movers we talked about on Friday's show. So new analyst ratings out there on several EV names. So Fisker, FSR, which I own shares in, we're up 23% on Friday on that initiation and positive call. And then Ride, Lordstown Motors, down 12% Friday on that initiation and negative call from those analyst ratings. So again, tale of two EV names based on those analyst ratings. So keep an eye on both of those as, we head into the new era of electric vehicles. And both look like they could be positioned to gain. Again, I do own shares of FSR as I believe it is going to have a breakout 2021 and 2022. So keep an eye on that one on your watch if you do not own shares. And then ARK Funds added more LGVW, now going to be Butterfly Networks, ticker BFLY. And then also sold some Virgin Galactic, ticker SPCE, which I do own shares in. This will be a trend to watch to see if it was just a small sale of Virgin Galactic, as the fund, changes its positions around being an active fund, or if this could be a sign that Cathie Wood is taking gains in Virgin Galactic, or perhaps she saw the news on Friday as a negative. So shares of Virgin Galactic did sell off 8% on Friday. They are delaying that next flight. So keep an eye on that one. We've talked several times, when they delayed their flight before, when they had that failure before, shares did dip and provide a buying opportunity. So again, nothing's changed with the long-term plan for Virgin Galactic. So if you believe in the long-term story, you had a dip and a possible buying opportunity on Friday. We had a couple deals announced on Friday. So FCAC shares ended down 4%, and Fuse, FUSE, down 5% on Friday. So a common theme we are now seeing where these deals that are announced are not getting that sustainable 1 day pop. So it looks like, we get that pop early in the morning, either on the rumor or when that deal is announced. And by the time the end of the day comes, sometimes those shares are trading down. Also, a lot of these deals are, coming from existing rumors. So they're already having that built in premium to the share price, which means maybe there's some profit taking there as well. So keep an eye on that trend. And we'll talk more about that when we get to rumors. So a stock to watch that we highlighted last week, Rtpz. This is the second SPAC from Mark Pincus and Reid Hoffman. It was a big mover Friday, but I think this one is going to go higher this week and get more attention. So I just had an article published that Mark Pincus and Reid Hoffman have launched their third SPAC now. So RTP first, Rtpz second, and now RTPY will be the third SPAC from that group. So RTP is being linked to Joby Aviation and Hippo. Again, we'll cover more in the rumor section today, but they did file for that third SPAC. So it looks like RTPZ could be the one to trade now, with RTP having the rumors and that third SPAC coming. So some built-in premiums coming there as well. We saw a record number of new SPACs filed on Friday, many of them coming from teams that have done previous SPAC deals or have SPACs currently searching for targets. Again, seeing huge numbers for both filings and then deals. So 12 deals announced last week, record number of filings on Friday. So no stopping SPACs right now. Again, we are not seeing as high of gains from those deal announcements, but if you're following the trends, if you're following your investment strategy and plan, capitalizing on your risk reward, there's plenty of money to be made right now in SPACs with the large number of, deals announced and large number of new SPACs hitting the market. Big gainer Friday after hours was STPK, bringing STEM, energy company, public. So it was profiled by Jim Cramer on Mad Money. He called it one of the best SPACs out there. He teased that he was going to have a SPAC on his show earlier in the day, but did not say which company. So a couple highlights from that were that STEM has a $200 million backlog and 100% of their fiscal 2021 revenue is already locked in. So keep an eye on STPK. This has been a favorite of many commentators on CNBC, starting to get some analyst attention as well. This is one where once that deal goes through, it could really see some analyst initiation calls and, really start to head higher with that space that it is in. VLDR, so former SPAC, Velodyne, a LiDAR company. So one of the big stories when this company went public was that Ford owned a portion of the company. So Ford paid $75 million in 2016 for a stake in Velodyne. They owned 7.6%. They were going to use Velodyne LiDAR technology in their vehicles. So they sold that position, and that was highlighted by Bloomberg last week. And a couple things to note here are that Ford has investments in their own LiDAR technology, and that the Bill Ford family also owns a stake in Ouster, which is going public with ticker CLA. So again, as we've talked LiDAR companies on the show, there are lots of players, in the LiDAR market. So keep an eye out on all of these because it's going to depend on who gets those big auto deals. And here you see Ford possibly moving from one to the next. They did say that the sale of that stake, obviously, which they took a huge profit on, was just part of their strategic plan to, strategically use their capital. So we'll follow that story as I think there could be more there. Two new Michael Klein SPACs from Churchill Capital began trading on Friday. Churchill Capital 6, ticker CCVI, and Churchill Capital 7, CVII. So CCVI raised $480 million, which was up from their original plan of $400 million. And CCVI raised $1.2 billion, up from original plan of $1 billion. So both have no target and will focus on an area of expertise for management in any industry. They both have units that include 1/5 of a warrant. So CCIV, obviously the big one we've talked about with that Lucid Motors rumor, raised $1 billion in July, also included 1/5 of a warrant. So, the seventh SPAC from Michael Klein is one of the largest ones out there. So that could be a big story to follow, especially if he lands Lucid Motors with CCIV. There's going to be a lot of attention paid to those Michael Klein SPACs, if he gets the job done here. So again, Klein becoming one of the big names in the SPAC world now with 7 SPACs under that Churchill Capital umbrella. And then STIC, which is taking BarkBox public, they reported new guidance today. So for the third quarter, sales increased a record 78% compared to last year. The first 9 months of fiscal 2021, sales are now up 65% year over year. Subscription shipments grew 47% to 1.1 million. And then they reiterated their fiscal 2021 and fiscal 2022 forecasts. So BarkBox showing no signs of slowing down during the pandemic, and people, getting their pet care needs through the mail. I do own shares of STIC, so keep an eye out on that one. And then turning to our 2 new deals that were announced today. So up first, we have Pdac. This is Pdac Acquisition Corp, merging with Li-Cycle, a lithium-ion battery resource recycling company. Pdac was one of those that we gave you during our Biden SPAC show back on January 20th. So hopefully some of you were able to get in, as they did have connections to the government. So this is North America's largest lithium-ion battery recycling company. $615 million in gross proceeds from the merger, which will fully fund global expansion for Li-Cycle. Values the company at $1.6 billion. Shares will trade as LICY on the New York Stock Exchange if the merger is approved. Current Pdac acquisition shareholders will own 18% of the company after the merger. So Li-Cycle uses a proprietary method to recover high-grade materials from end-of-life batteries. They create a closed-loop, domestically sourced lithium-ion battery supply chain. They have over 40 commercial contracts in place with blue-chip suppliers and agreements signed through the year 2030. So they sit at the intersection of 3 mega trends, according to their presentation. So electric vehicle revolution, supply shortage of battery materials, and a sustainable battery recycling solution. One of the big key there is battery materials. So we've talked before, and you've seen it with the SPAC MP materials trading higher. Battery materials are scarce, and right now China leads the way, and that's something that is hurting the supply chain. And a company like this being able to recycle, old batteries could really help with that market. So spoke and hub method, which they said sets them apart. So they use spokes, mechanically processed batteries close to the sources of supply. And then those hubs are the facility in the production of specialty materials. So current legacy recycling technologies use thermal operation and emit harmful emissions. And they also have lower material recovery rates. So that's really important given the focus on that recovery rate. So Li-Cycle has a 95% rate. California, as one example, is requiring a recovery rate of close to 100% by the year 2022. China has rules in place for 80% or more. So Li-Cycle meets those needs and those requirements, whereas other competitors do not. So right now, 2 commercial spokes in place for Li-Cycle, plans to complete their first hub in the fourth quarter of 2022. They have a 5-year rollout plan to have 3 spokes and 1 hub in North America, 6 spokes in Europe, and 11 spokes and 3 hubs in the APAC and China region. So right now they can recycle 10,000 tons a year, but by 2025, that figure jumps to over 100,000 tons a year. So revenue forecasted for $12 million for fiscal 2021, $75 million for fiscal 2022, and by 2025, annual revenue of $958 million, and $303 million of that figure is already contracted with current partners. So compounded annual growth rate of 82%, 2021 to 2025. So shares of Pdac acquisition are, around 14 right now. These were above $17 in pre-market trading. This is one I'm definitely keeping on my watch, as that battery recycling technology. This could be the thing behind the thing with electric vehicles, smartphones, and getting those grade materials out of the end of life batteries, to use in new items going forward. Our other deal this morning was SBG, announced a deal with Owlet. This is a data-driven baby care ecosystem. So they make smart monitors. They have a monitor that goes on a baby's foot that also, keeps track of heart rate, sends, those to the parents so it can monitor, along with those video monitoring systems. So fiscal 2020 revenue of 75 million, up 51%. And then forecast of 107 million in 2021 and 175 million in 2022, growth of 40 to 60%, each year there, being done at a valuation of around $1 billion. SBG was a consumer-focused SPAC that does have Tommy Hilfiger attached as one of the advisors. So shares of this SPAC hit 1250, early in the morning, and they are now trading under 1050. So this is one I'll be curious to see how this one ends on the day. So keep an eye out on that one. And then on our calendar, we have 3 upcoming votes, but none of them are this week. So that is it for headlines and those 2 new deals, Mitch.
All right, so definitely we got some new kind of stocks to watch out for. So definitely going to take a look at some of those. Let me go ahead and pull SBG down. I just want to talk to the chat right quick. If you guys hear me well on the volume, definitely put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat. Let me wake you up, guys. Let me see those ones roll through there. I just want to make sure that my audio is loud enough with this new mic. So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about what you were mentioning here. So one I'll definitely keep an eye out is the one that I have, RPLA, Finance of America, with the SPAC merger on March 25th. So one of the things that we've seen, and we've seen this common, is that we see a run up a lot of the times right before the merger date. And then we see that kind of turnaround at merger. So one of the things is this one's going off support, right? And so I really like the daily chart on this one. I'm going to go ahead and put it up here so that you guys can see exactly what I'm looking at, guys. This is the weekly chart, so it looks a little clearer for us. But one of the things that we had is that we had this first kind of cycle, which was between kind of this 22nd of April until the 13th of January. It was this little run up that it was kind of teasing out. Then we had this big drop, right, in the March time, and then we started coming back up. We've had a couple moves up there towards the 1090, and now we've made our way all the way back towards this long-term support, this right here at this 1010 level. I think it's looking good for a potential run into the merger. Where it can get to, that's going to be the question. Can it get to 11? Can it get to 12? I think it looks good here on the risk and return, so I'm definitely going to stick in this one. All right, so it looks like they can hear me. Audio's fine, looking good there. So we can continue on moving here. So definitely want to get into the watch list today, as I've seen some stocks move. One that we mentioned, I think we've been watching it for weeks now, and really starting to get some rocketing action. So let's go ahead and let's get into our watch list. All right, guys, so pulling up the watch list here. So one thing I can clearly see is MP leading, guys. And why is MP leading? One thing I actually mentioned this in the pre-market show was that I heard mentions by the GM CEO that kind of these precious materials and the materials needed to make catalytic converters was becoming very expensive. And so that kind of gave me a little bit of a kind of a light bulb to pay attention for these. Can MP materials keep running? Hey, as we see today, it's definitely looking strong, up about 15%, $5.32. If we look on the daily on this one, I mean, we had this one on the show when it was at like 16, 14. So it definitely, if you want to stick with SPACs attack so you can get these CEO interviews and get in front of these moves. But now we're seeing up there at the resistance 40.50. It's a pretty interesting chart. It held multiple times this kind of 30 look and really got some support here at the 32. So it's looking strong there. What do you think about MP, Chris?
Yeah, MP is a great story ahead. And, I see those stories all the time of China possibly limiting the exports of those rare earth minerals. So we became too reliant, as a country on being able to get those materials from China. And that's something MP really wants to focus on, is that supply chain, to help with our electric vehicle. And, as I talked about that Pdac deal, with the battery recycling technology, if we're able to take our old batteries and recycle them and get those materials out of there, we become less reliant, on a country like China that can hurt our supply chain, right now. So MP, no surprise that it's trading higher today. The question is, how high can this thing go? And how quickly can they get all that production into place to, help keep us less reliant on China?
All right, so let's go ahead and let's get into the next one here. This is one I want to mention that, hey, we've been watching it and calling kind of the bottom and trying to time the bottom on Helion for a while now, and it's definitely starting to look strong there. Let's go ahead and pull up this chart so we can see the bottoming action, and we could clearly see this bottoming action here on the 15th of December, the 4th of January, the 5th of January, and now the 5th of February, and also the 10th of February, and a quick reversal from that bottoming action near, let's say, the 1550s or 1525 area. But then we had this huge drive up with the release of that battery news. And one of the things that I can say is that it's starting to look good. It's starting to look like it wants to fill this gap here towards 24. And with this big volume bar, what we always talk about, guys, what do we need for a stock to really try and change trends? It's volume, guys. So right here, we got 68 million shares traded. Try to find a day where it's 68 million shares traded after the merger. You can't. You can't find it, guys. If I scroll all through this, the average is going to be about, I would say, about 8 million shares traded on a really good day. A low day, about 4 million shares traded. So here you're seeing about 15 million shares traded. And now we're starting to really start trading some volume. On Friday, we had 24 million shares traded. So today we want to see if we can keep up this high relative volume and really start getting some driver in this industry to keep it going. Of course, also mentioned, and I'll give a shout out, one of the things that was mentioned about Helion, and Chris, you can mention a little bit more about this, was that they're going to be kind of releasing their own trucks, right, Chris?
Yeah, so that Hypertruck ERX is the other big story to watch. And the other thing I'll note with Helion is it looks like CEO Thomas Healy is going to be appearing on Bloomberg during the noon hour today, talking about that new battery technology that they unveiled last week. So no surprise that this one is up. I do own shares of HYLN. The thing I've been saying for months with Helion is they needed more news. Ever since that merger was announced, there just wasn't news out. No new deals, no, press releases, company kind of taking a back seat. And it looks like they've been busy working on this technology, and now they're going to get out there, show it off, and, really get that attention that I've been waiting to see.
Yeah, one of the things that I always look for is the story to change, right? You need catalysts. You need the story to get hype. And right here with a new battery kind of talk, new technology here really starting to rip, and it's actually affecting different stocks. I see in the chat mention RMO. I think this is why you're seeing this pullback in RMO. You're just seeing a pullback based off of that Helion news. And so I think you're getting a chance to get an RMO at a discount. But definitely, this is one that, we were expecting to bounce back and now has taken a dip because of this recent kind of catalyst in Helion. And so this is why you got to stay with the news, guys, and try to get the news flow. And that's what I was expecting. I was expecting something to happen in Helion. It wasn't necessarily that I thought the company was the best company in the world, but more along, when something kind of sits at those levels and you can keep basing your risk near that support, it just gives you a probability. Probability of maybe some news flow to come in, the catalyst to come in. I saw other battery plays also getting attention. And one of the things that I've mentioned is that I think retrofit is the first move, and that's what Helion really does, at least for right now in their major business segment. So I'm keeping an eye on this, and Helion is definitely one to watch. Let's keep going towards the next one here. I want to talk a little bit about some cannabis. Saw today some news mentioning cannabis. Chris, did you hear about the New York news?
I did not. For cannabis, what is it?
Yeah, so Kumo pretty much was talking about how they're working towards setting up delivery in New York so that by the time it does go legal, the delivery will match it at the same time, and thus creating a lot of jobs and revenue. That's really what they're trying to point at in this, is that they're going to be able to create some jobs and some revenue. And we all know that New York right now really needs kind of some of this money. So it's one to watch. And I think that's why you're seeing these these cannabis SPACs up. You got, the Silver Spike, and we also got, where's Clever? Clever was right here. There it is, right underneath it. So let's take a look at Clever and see where it's at. One thing is this one did a huge spike, and now I think you're starting to see some support. In the overall industry, we've definitely seen some rockets in cannabis lately. So you got to be a little bit careful, but definitely I think you're starting to see some support in the overall industry. If we're going to get delivery in certain areas, if we're going to get legalization, I think you really just have to try to find what I call the laggard play in these, is try to find some near support so that you don't get caught maybe in the run. But it doesn't seem too bad to add some, cannabis to our portfolio right now. So I'm going to keep an eye on these and see if we get any new SPACs to come out in cannabis in the next couple of weeks. And I'll definitely probably grab one of those. All right, Chris, let's keep going with the watch list. Is there anything that's sticking out to you today that you want to definitely touch on?
No, I see QuantumScape moving lower again. Looks like the $50 level. I know that was one we talked about last week, QS. So, what are you seeing on that chart? Do you think we're going to break back down to that $40 level? Where's the bottoming on this one?
Well, right off the top, Benzinga Pro telling me that we got a conference call scheduled today at 5 p.m. So you definitely want to be paying attention towards that. And, whenever we get into kind of these earning plays, you got to be careful, because it's a lot of the times it's 50-50, right? And so one of the things I'd say here is that at least you got this pop to go off of. I think on a down gap, it could go to 45 or maybe even 40. But on an up gap, it could probably get to 60 and really start driving to 70. So this is one that I think if you're in the right position and you feel like you can hold towards the risk into the earnings, then yeah, stick back and enjoy the show. Hopefully the earnings fall your way. But this is not something I would attack on a daily just for today, just because I don't want to ever get caught in the earnings that go against me. And so that's why I would kind of stay out of it today. I'd wait to see the earnings to see what happens there. And then maybe you could be fast on the reaction and jump onto the trade if it starts swinging back up there above 50s. So keep an eye on that one. That's QuantumScape. And the conference call is scheduled today at 5 p.m. All right, guys. So another one on the list that's moving up, one that everyone started buying up the moment it was announced was TSIA, right? And why did people buy this one up, Chris?
So this had a pipe from Chamath.
Yeah, one of the things is when you deal with the right board, you usually get bought up. And so immediately this one spiked up. It had a high there on the 31st of 1935. Then we went to another high there of 1970. Pulled back all the way towards this kind of 1215 area. So definitely keep your eye on these. It pushed up here towards 1824. So I'd look for a pullback closer towards 14. I really wouldn't want to get caught up here at 16, 18, and then watch it back at 14 really quickly. But this one, you just got to keep your eyes out. Nothing definitive yet. So I think these are ones that just get hype. And so I would add this in the hype SPAC pile. And so there's different kind of SPACs. I think there's kind of some longer term approach where you can look at the company and think long term. And then there's companies that just have hype behind them. And I think this is one to add to the hype pile. Like let's say PSTH, the major hype. Yep. That's one of the leaders in the hype SPACs. So let's continue going. Let's go with one or two more here on the list. Of course, we talked about RTP and Rtpz there, both leading really. I mean, 8% up 5%, definitely looking good on those charts. Another one that we've mentioned consistently was DMYD, and this is one that I've been kicking myself, I think, since early December that I don't have it in the account. And the reason why is that Sports Radar, it's supported by a lot of people. It's not just one person. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Chris?
Yeah, so DMYD, so Genius Sports, the thing behind the thing, providing that data, for all these sports betting companies. We had Niccolo De Masi on the show talking about, why Genius Sports and why are they bringing them public with his DMY technology SPAC. To me, this is, again, there's so many sports betting players out there, and a couple have really distanced themselves with DraftKings and FanDuel, but there's new people emerging every day. Whereas the data side of things, you have a duopoly. You have two main providers. So if you want exposure to sports betting, instead of trying to find the winners for each state or the overall winner and trying to find, who's going to get the revenue growth, maybe you take a step back and you look for that play on who's providing the data to all the sports betting companies, who's going to be the one to win for each state, regulating sports betting. So to me, that's why DMYD is a good pick going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely keep this one on watch. One thing that I definitely mentioned is that I'm looking for big pullbacks in this one to get into it. And so it's kind of like the way that I'm keeping an eye on GNOG. Just to give you guys some insight, this is one that I'm starting to watch to see if it's starting to level out here. So I'll definitely be looking at this kind of 16 area. That's to me where I could see a quick dip and then a quick reversal back. One thing I definitely mentioned is that you got this kind of one attempt lower, the second attempt lower. I want to see one more attempt break that, kind of get closer towards the $16.50 area, and that's when I'll start getting excited again about GNOG. And maybe let's look at how the RSI's chart's looking, just to bring some other ones that are in the same industry, and it's looking like the same. Let's look for some pullback in this one, see some bottoming action. I think 16 is also another level here to watch on this one. So that's RSI. I'll keep an eye on that one. Last one I'd mention, guys, is this Quell. I haven't seen this Quell up here in a little while, so I want to keep an eye on this one and see if it starts getting driver. One of the things that I mentioned about this weekly is that look how it's just sideways trending, but kind of lean your way up. And so what is that giving me is that essentially they're just hanging out in here. So I'll keep looking at this one to see if it can break out. But if we look at the daily, you get multiple attempts, right? So 1, 2, 3, it pulls back, went up there, should have ripped out there at that 1550. So one of the things I'd look for to see if we could hold this 1350 today, get some volume and try to get back up above 14. It looks like we tried to do that in the intraday, but wasn't able to hold. So let's see the 15-minute. Yep. And so you see we went to that 14 and we quickly rejected it. Let's see if we can recover in the day, in the intraday, by the end of the day, and get back above that 14 and close above that 14. I'd actually start looking at this chart in a bullish manner. All right, so I know that we got a lot to get to, Chris, with the rumors, and at the end of the day, guys, rumors are rumors, so definitely, do your own research. But one of the things that we want to do is get to you guys these SPACs early. And so we're going to go through some rumors. Some are new, some are older, but Chris does a lot of research to get you guys the kind of the best information on these rumors. So I'll go ahead and I'll let Chris lead here, and definitely, guys, do him a favor. smash that like down below. If you like this information from SPAC's attack, go ahead and smash the like and the subscribe, and let's keep rolling through here, Chris.
Yeah, so we've done a couple shows where we try to bring you as many rumors as possible, and one of the things that turned out to be true from our last rumor show was that a lot of those deals ended up being correct. Some of them take a couple days, some of them take a month. And the other key is, where's the rumor coming from? So throughout the process of really analyzing the SPAC market, the two biggest rumor sources, Bloomberg and Reuters, are the ones that stand out, for really tending to be ahead and calling those deals right. Now, there have been some cases, of course, where they're wrong. One of the Bloomberg ones was, Topgolf going public with a Churchill SPAC that ended up being wrong, as Topgolf went public with Callaway instead. So again, rumors are rumors, as Mitch just said. Don't go chasing. But if you can time these rumors and look for some of those dip buys, it's important, and it can provide some upside. So some of the newer rumors that we have from last week, GRSV. So this is Gores Holdings 5. And the Gores family of SPACs has, done some great returns on those deals. So this is one to watch. So they're in talks to acquire the beverage can unit of Ardog Group, which is publicly traded as ARD. So Ardog is a leader in cans and bottles and is working on sustainable packaging for companies. So they could also pursue a direct spinoff to shareholders. This is coming from Bloomberg. So again, GRSV in talks to acquire the beverage can unit of Ardog, which would tend to, make me believe that that company sees their glass and plastic division being more high growth, and maybe getting rid of the can unit, which is more of the legacy brand. One thing we saw during the pandemic was that some of these beverage companies were having a hard time keeping up with cans on shelves. So, demand is there for cans, and this is a company that kind of leads the way in sustainability. So keep an eye out for this possible deal. This is GRSV. Another deal we had last week that was rumored is AACQ. So AACQ is in talks with Origin Materials. This is per Bloomberg. So Origin is the world's leading carbon negative materials company using carbon in biomass. So this company has deals in place with Nestle, Pepsi, and other big players in the consumer space. This is one I'm watching, because one of the things we saw with sustainability and plastic plays was a lot of, not attention being paid to Danimer Scientific, DNMR, which went public in that same space of the new plastics for a new generation of sustainability and clean energy. And that has been one of the better performing SPACs. So AACQ, if it gets this Origin deal done, and it is announced, I think this is one that spikes higher on that deal. I was actually surprised. So this one now up 20% today. It did over 14 earlier. This is one, though, I'm a little surprised it actually isn't trading higher. But again, this is just the rumor. But when that definitive agreement, if it does come, this is one I really like going forward. And this is one I'll be looking for today to possibly get in. That plastics and sustainability space is going to be a key going forward. Another deal that was rumored last week is RMGB. They're in talks with Renew Power, India's largest renewable power company. So RMGB, this is from RMG, the same group that took Romeo Power, the battery company, public. So this is one. So, shares, again, were up this morning, and now they're trading pretty flat on the day. So here you have a chance to get in on this rumor. Again, if it's true, and you have India's largest renewable energy power company, to me that's a big deal going forward, as each country really looks to take the lead in that renewable energy. So, look at this one. And again, that rumor out there for Renew Power. Another one we talked about last week was NSTB in talks with Apex Clearing. This was a Bloomberg rumor. So NSTB is the second SPAC from Northern Star. the same group that's taking BarkBox public in one of the fastest deals announced last year. Apex Clearing is the company, for a lot of these online brokers that handles the clearing of funds and those transactions. It was in the news, with Robinhood and others, as they limited the sale of certain securities. So keep an eye out on this one. It could be a rather large deal, rumored at over $5 billion, and, definitely one to be on watch. And then that great management team at Northern Star and the fact that they get deals done quick is something to watch too. Another rumor I saw come last week was Celebrite. So this is an intelligence company that works with law enforcement, military, and intelligence agencies. So Calculus Tech is reporting that they're nearing a SPAC deal valuing the company at $2 billion. There was no tickers in that article. I will throw out a rumor, and again, strictly just a rumor based on, looking at management teams. SCVX is a SPAC that has the former director of the National Intelligence and also the chief information security officer at BNY, and another manager that was, heavily involved with chief information security at a leading World Bank. So that could be a play in that area as well. And then some old rumors that we have that still haven't gotten deals done. So CCIV, obviously, the big one that everyone is waiting for. This thing is trading at such a premium. So again, be careful, guys. Don't chase the rumor. I am still holding shares, but my risk reward, again, I bought shares at the $12, $13 level. I feel very comfortable holding some of my shares going forward. But again, if this deal does not go through, shares will fall. If it does go through, they could spike, right away. But the question is, where does this thing land, once that deal goes through? So looks like you want to jump in, Mitch.
Chris, what happened, man? They could have had this one at $10.
I know
just from watching our show, man.
That's the thing, and that's why it's important, guys. Pay attention. 10 to 11. Again, if you bought this between 10 and 11, your risk is $10. If you bought this between 30 and 40, your risk is back down to $10. That's a huge difference with the risk reward profile. And that's why, you see a lot of people saying, don't buy CCIV now. And well, that's easier said than done because it's trading at the highest premium of any pre-announced deal SPAC out there. But these are the people that weren't telling you to buy this one between 10 and 11, like we talked about on our show. Again, pay attention to, the ones trading, below that level so you can get in, before these deals are rumored or announced. So that's a great point there, Mitch.
Yeah, definitely. Just to add on to that, one of the things that I did with CCIV was I was paying attention also to the amount of money in the SPAC and the board. It wasn't necessarily the target acquisition that was put out and rumored back then. It was just based off of those two things. So just to kind of get an idea there why I liked it and how you can get into these early. It was the board and the amount of money in there. That's what decided it for me.
Yeah, and that's actually another show I want to talk about that we'll be doing soon is looking at some of the largest dollar raised SPACs out there, right? So CCIV raised over $1 billion. So they're able to take a company like Lucid Motors public. Same thing with Pershing Square, right? Bill Ackman's SPAC, the largest one out there. They're able to take a huge company public. So what are the other large SPACs, and how much money do they have in their chest? That's something we'll be talking about in a future show. Couple more rumors just to get through quickly. And again, these were all reported, weeks or months ago, and they still have not been announced. So we have THCA rumored with Transfix. That's coming from Bloomberg. We have NGAC rumored with XOS Trucks. That's coming from Reuters. And then a fun one, RTP, which I talked about at the start of the show. So this one's rumored to take Joby Aviation public. Financial Times reports. That's an air taxi company. And then Bloomberg actually reported that RTP was in talks with Hippo, an insurance company. So there you have two very different industries now rumored for RTP. But the big thing here is RTP has two rumors out there, which is why this one is now trading higher, as it looks like a deal is getting closed in on. And again, as I said at the start of the show, they have a third SPAC out now, which sometimes indicates that they're getting close to announcing a deal for an existing one. RBAC, so Red Ball was in talks with Fenway Sports. Those talks ended. So this was one where the rumor ended up not being true, but the rumor was there because the talks were being held. But it looks like the two sides just got held up either on timeline or financing. So the new rumors suggest that RBAC looking at still sports teams, possibly a soccer team. I've also seen some internet chatter. Maybe they go after Sport Radar. But again, now this one does not have a definite linked rumor after those Fenway Sports talks ended. So we have Byton, a Chinese EV company exploring a SPAC deal. They're backed by Apple partner Foxconn. There was no tickers in this one. This is a Reuters rumor, so it could be important to go through, some SPACs that are targeting the Asian market to maybe see who has the inside track on this one. We have APSG in talks with Solera. That was a Bloomberg rumor. Then BTWN, this one, Bridgetown, got a lot of attention with those Tokopedia rumors. I don't see any new news on this one, but still being linked to taking Tokopedia, a leading Indonesian e-commerce company, public. We have BOWX in talks with WeWork, SoftBank-backed company. And then some internet rumors that we've talked about before on the show. And again, these are not coming from Bloomberg. These are not coming from Reuters. These are strictly ones that are floating around. So, and again, I'll tell you why it's important to, not get too caught up on those. So FMAC, First Mark, which is a SPAC that I own. This one was rumored with Discord. And shares rocketed higher when that rumor kind of started circulating around. Firstmark owns a stake in Discord, the parent company of the SPAC does. But then those shares fell back down as, this really wasn't out from a major news source. This was just strictly people, connecting the dots, who owns what, who has a stake in it. And, so that's important not to chase, going all the way up. Then Mitch was talking cannabis. So GNRS is a cannabis SPAC out there. I've seen rumors online of Leafly being a target here, which would be a competitor to Weed Maps, and a growing company in that cannabis e-commerce space. So keep an eye out. This one has been trending higher, GNRS, because it is a cannabis play. But again, with rumors, we also saw some SPACs that were targeting cannabis that went a completely different route. So like Tuscan Holdings, right? THCA was the ticker. It literally had THC in its name, and it went after a battery company instead. We also saw a cannabis SPAC bring a LiDAR company public. So just because, they say they're going after cannabis doesn't mean it's a foregone conclusion. So keep an eye out on that one as well. And then Quell, Mitch talked about QELL. That one now being linked to Lilium, and that's coming from a EVTOL based website that specializes in that space. So again, it's not Bloomberg, it's not Reuters, but it's a site that has firsthand knowledge of Lilium and companies in the competing space, saying that they have been approached by Quell to take them public. So, that's one worth watching. So that's what I've got for rumors. And hey, Mitch, I want to get to something else and give our viewers another exclusive here. I saw on Twitter over the weekend from my buddy SPAC Guru. This is something, guys, to keep watch and to have your money ready, because we've talked about the man himself, SPAC King, Chamath Palihapitiya, and guess what? He filed the names of his next 7 SPACs with the SEC. So he has not filed the offerings, but it looks like he is getting extremely close to launching IPOG, IPOH, IPOI, IPOJ, IPOK, IPOL, and IPOM. 7 new SPACs coming from Chamath. I expect those to be announced, and filed anytime now that he has filed those names on record with the SEC. Again, credit to SPAC Guru on Twitter. But if you like Chamath SPACs, you're going to want to get some money ready, because it looks like we're going to have 7 new Chamath SPACs coming soon. How about that, Mitch?
All I know is that I'm still calling him out. Where you at? Where you at?
Maybe he wants to come on and tell us why 7 new SPACs. I would love to hear, because this is a guy who launched them in batches of 3 before, right? Yeah. And now, IPOD, IPOE, IPOF, the other story here is, if he's launching 7 new SPACs, are we getting close to announcing deals for IPOD or IPOF? I own shares of IPOD. I'd love to get a deal announcement at any time, because otherwise this guy's going to have 9 SPACs out there searching for targets. That's a lot to keep track of.
Hey, let's just hope he has a good management team. And as you can see, he's been asking for financial advisors or people that know their stocks and building up. So, hey, you never know. He might have some smart people working for him, right? I mean, that's what it's always about. It's not just about the leader, guys. It's about who you build on your team. Same thing we do here on Benzinga. We need strong people to be accountable in each area and pushing their levels to new levels. And I think that hey, that might be exactly what's going on there. One thing I will note is that, like, the pattern you just noticed, the release into 3. And so know the patterns, guys, and look for patterns in life. One of the things that I always say is that patterns show themselves and patterns don't lie. And when you see something repetitive, what you do is you kind of just go to what I do is I go into like kind of this scientific method testing kind of, you create a hypothesis and then you just kind of test out and see the analysis from there. And this is how a lot of the times I pick my stocks. I mean, it's never going to be one perfect result or one perfect strategy that gets you towards your profit, guys. But one thing you can do is kind of keep working these kind of different strategies, test them so that you can go ahead and see what the pattern really is and if there is a pattern there. So go ahead, guys. Let's go ahead and place your tickets in the chat. One thing I definitely want to do, so I want to mention, guys, is that, and this was brought to me by someone in the chat, Carl. He's trying to bring some topics that we can talk about. So if you guys have some topics out there, definitely put them in the comments below. We check this out every single day, and it's important to us to go ahead and get to the topics that you guys want covered. So one of the topics that I want to work on, Chris, and I think you'll like this, is that what I want to do is I want to start grading these. I want to create our own grade, SPACs Attack grade for SPACs. And so we're going to figure out a way to judge these based off the board, the amount of money that's in it, the potential of the stock that they actually the potential of the acquisition that they actually grab, and the long-term potential. And so we're going to start doing some grading, and we're going to do a grading show where we'll go in and give stocks a SPACs an A, a B, or a C based off of some variables that we all come together on. And that's what it's all about. It's the community aspect. So definitely, guys, if you have some ideas, leave them in the chat. I'm super excited about this, because this is how people really start filtering through the SPACs, and we'll go ahead and work through them with you. One of the things is, the grade's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a brand new thing. So it's not based for you guys to trade off of. Always, guys, education and process. That's what we stand here on SPACs Attack about. And so what I want to do is get to the point where you guys at home can give these SPACs some grading and really start deciphering which ones you guys want to go ahead and get out. All right, guys. So definitely seeing some chatter in the chat. They loving the idea, so that's great. And definitely a shout out to Carl out there working hard. One of the things that Carl's doing is he's working hard on building a new portfolio. And when you're building a portfolio on SPACs, what do you got to do? You got to find the information first, right? And then so you got to do the deep dives. You got to start trying to time these. Which ones are closer towards $10 and $12? We're going to do another show on that. I know that Chris and I should go ahead and nail another 10 to we'll extend it towards 12. We did a 10 to 11 show. Let's do a 10 to 12 show. Let's get some of these big hype stocks and get them out to you guys a little bit early so you guys can start planning on this. So definitely one thing I definitely say is if you haven't shared the show with your friends, go ahead and put it up on Twitter. What this does is it's going to go ahead and get us a bigger family, a bigger community, get us bigger names. I mean, we want to keep giving you guys the best exclusive interviews, and I know Chris and I are going to keep working hard. We have a Benzinga Bootcamp that's going to be teaching about SPACs. We got some great people joining. Chris, you want to let them know a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our boot camp coming up this Saturday, and guys, one of the biggest feedback that our events team got was hold an event on a Saturday. So Mitch and I are going to be, working on a Saturday, right? Sharing our news, our, insight, and we're going to be bringing some experts with us. So on Saturday, this boot camp is going to be all about options and SPACs, so what a great way, for people who maybe only trade stocks and, aren't as familiar with options, aren't as familiar with SPACs, to really get some knowledge on both those industries. And we'll be bringing along some show friends, right? So Julian Klimachko from Accelerate, he has a SPAC ETF in Canada. He is a SPAC king in his own right? Not to take away from Chamath's title as well, but this is a guy who's been following SPACs for years. He's buying those SPACs when they first get, offered to the public. He's a great resource, talking units, talking warrants, talking arbitrage, talking, what to do when that deal is announced and those shares spike. Should you hold shares? Should you sell and take profits? Should you, take off half your position or sell your warrants? Great resource. And then we also have Niccolo De Masi coming from DMY Technology. So he took Rush Street Interactive public, RSI. He's taking Genius Sports public, DMYD. And then he also has a third SPAC, DMYI. So some of the questions we're going to ask him, what is DMYI targeting? Because both those other targets went after sports betting industry. Is he done with sports betting? Is he looking for a different angle there? And then also, he's launched 3 SPACs. Could there be more coming? That's something I want to ask him. This is a guy who also co-founded Blue Mobile, which just announced a merger or a buyout from EA, Electronic Arts. So this is a very smart guy, and we're ready to pick his brain as well. So Saturday boot camp, I will drop the link in the chat, but come on and join us. This is free, and learn all about SPACs and options from some great experts. And then also, before we end, I want to say we do have an interview tomorrow on the show. So ticker ACEV, this is Acronix. This is a company that's going to play a big role in connectivity of cars going forward. And you've heard about chip shortages, right? This is a company that's gotten a lot of attention, and it looks like President Biden is ready to help, with this supply cycle for a company like Acronix. So we will be interviewing the CEO tomorrow, so keep an eye out on that. Ticker ACEV. So that's what I've got for the show today, Mitch.
All right, so we see you mentioned definitely there'll be a way for you guys to go ahead and catch the boot camp and the show after the fact, guys. So go to the Benzinga YouTube. You'll be able to find our SPACs Attack link, and also you'll be able to see the boot camp on our YouTube. So definitely stay tuned on the weekend. Hey, build those skills, guys. It's all about building skills and focusing on certain areas in your trading so that you can get towards that next level. Whether that's focusing on the technicals, whether that's focusing on the fundamentals or the story. Find what works for you and what you need to work on so that you can get towards that next level. Each of us need something to improve on. There's always room to improve. Guys, I'll tell you right now. Right now, I've had to take a step back because I've been missing the market last week. And so instead of rushing towards the market, I'm taking a step back and looking at the charts, trying to reevaluate where the market is so that I can make great decisions. And it's always about being informed. And the uninformed trader is the one that gets upset because what ends up happening is they look back at their trade and they realize they went strictly based off of emotions. And when you're trading off of emotions, that's a losing game, guys.